Hello and welcome. I'm AgentMeeple and today I'm going to be going through some Primaries pack OSL. So we're just using the Primaries pack, same as last month, and this month we're going to focus on doing some OSL on this little guy. This is a Reaper Mini. I think his name is Bergamot, the Halfling Scout. You can find him if you just search for Halfling. But any mini with a lantern or like a torch would work as well, just a light source would work really well for doing this. Okay, so I think I'm going to go with a classic orange yellow light, and then we're going to go for a really dark back. So a lot of this will be cast heavily in shadow, and the front will obviously there'll be a lot of light because obviously he's carrying a lantern, and you only carry a lantern when it's really dark around. So I'm gonna make up, I think we'll start with orange. So I'm gonna use some pure yellow and some pure magenta from the Primaries pack. And we're going to make an orange. So we'll work here. So we'll start with 1-1 and adjust. The pure magenta is quite strong. Just 1 drop of each. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, so you can see the magenta's too strong. So we'll change it to, so you can adjust as you work. So I'm actually going to do 3-1 pure yellow to magenta. So I'm going to add 2 more drops of yellow. And that gives us a fairly nice orange. It's quite muted, which is ideal for the edges. You don't always have to paint the OSL in first, but I'm going to do it this way around because you'll be able to see better where I'm going to target the light. So I'll start with our orange. I want to start in the outer reaches. Now, for painting this, I'm going to brush towards the light source. So, here. Here. So, although his coat's going to cast a bit of shadow, we can put that in afterwards. Put that in there. We want light along here. So when brushing in towards the light source, it mostly matters where you'll have, so like here on this sleeve and round here on the coat, you're going to blend here. So it works easier if you brush away so you don't have a perfectly straight edge. It looks more natural. So we also want here a little bit on this sword. So the inside of his cloak is also going to get quite a lot of light. Brush down in this case. Across here, tops of his feet, and lots here. So we're mostly ignoring the zenithal. I only did that so you can see the model nicely. You see the detail and stuff that way. Okay, so I've added in orange. Let's add a little bit more on this ankle and on this inside of this foot. Okay. There's a little bit in there that we want to get as well, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take some yellow. Because the yellow is translucent, you can glaze it over and it'll blend in. Just get a good coat of this. We'll take some pure yellow, and we're just going to use pure yellow on its own, we're not mixing. And I'm going to start, so a little bit further in, we're not starting right at the edge, we're going to start here, and again blend towards the light. In this case I'm going to blend down. Like so. The idea is to brighten him, so this will pretty much just be covered in yellow. And this sword here, paint over his foot, so we can put shadows in and stuff more afterwards. The underside of that arm. Like so. Now, although it's translucent, it will build up, so we can do a second round of the same process. The aim is to build towards a more yellow effect. You can always go back in with the orange, so I'm going to touch up a little bit more here, bring it a bit further back there. Bring that in there. So obviously how much you can manipulate is based on, well, how easily you can get your brush in, really. So some areas you'll struggle because getting your brushing is quite hard work. His feet are too yellow, so we're going to go back in with some orange and just tone that down a bit more. So the closer we get to the light source, the more yellow it's going to be. Light tends to fade out as you get further away. So we'll do one more round of just yellow. We're also going to do extra light on the face. It will draw attention to his face, so typically with minis you want the face to be brighter than anywhere else. Just touch up on that face, that side of the face a bit there. So that's what, 3 rounds of yellow I've done. So I'm going to do pure yellow, pure white. I'm just going to do a 1-1 mix. The lantern's going to be almost completely white for its light source. So we'll do this one here. So the white makes the yellow more opaque. So I'm also going to add 1 drop of Water Plus just to make it a little more translucent. It's more in line with just pure yellow. Again, just brush in. Probably the last time I'm going to do this section of cloak. Get the hair. So I want extra focus on the brown nose on the face. This belt. The hilt, so the bottom of here. So I'm actually going to brush down. Now I'm getting a smaller circle here, I'm not going all the way to his feet. Now we're getting progressively brighter as we get towards the lantern here. It can be a little tricky, you've still got to put shadows in. So under the buttons, just in between his waistcoat. So then I'm going to do 1 yellow, and 2 pure white for my next round, and I'm also going to start painting the actual lantern. Two drops of Water Plus. Again, this is to make it more glaze-like, so we can blend it easier. This is not, it's quite a heavy glaze. Still focusing on the face. the hilt of this sword. Right, now I'm going to start layering in on the actual lantern. I'm going to have to put some white in on the other side because it's pretty much black. I'm going to use some white, just pure white, and paint in this side of the lantern where I didn't catch it with the white when I was priming. I'm going to do under this arm a little bit as well because it's quite dark under there. And there would be a lot of light. So we can do that. We can take the yellow. I'm pretty much just going to blend this straight over the top. Like so. I didn't wait for it to dry. What kind of blasphemy is this? Right. That side's at least mostly white now. So I'm going to take this one for this side. Extra focus on there. Okay, so the last round I'm going to do of OSL, we've got quite a lot of colours here. So we've got 3 yellow, 3 pure yellow, 1 magenta, pure yellow, 1 pure yellow, 1 pure white, 1 pure yellow, 2 pure white. We've got some pure white for touching in, and now I'm just going to use 1 drop of pure white and a little pure yellow on my brush and just mix that in. It'll give me a really pale yellow, like that. And then I'm going to do a drop of Water Plus. So I'm still going for a more glaze-like consistency. I want it fairly heavy though. Mostly it's just to aim for it to be blendable. It helps mix it too. Look at that. Okay, so we've got a really pale yellow now, which we're going to use for the lantern. And mostly it's on like the edge of this belt, buckle here, this hilt, the tip of the nose, upper lip, and his brow, like so. I'm also going to put some on here. So this is pretty much right next to the lantern. Get that in there. So the goal is to have the lantern look almost like a really yellowy, very, very light yellow white. Okay, one of the final things I'm going to do is I'm going to take some pure yellow. Now I want a fresh drop because it'll make it easier to mix, and it'll also make sure that it's more accurate. So I'm going to do 1 drop of pure yellow with 2 drops of pure water, and this is a proper glaze consistency. Pure water, Water Plus, not pure water. I'm stuck on pure, everything's pure. It gets confusing. Water Plus to make my glaze. So this is just going to smooth out some of those transitions. So into here, pretty much all the way across. Down over the hair. Yeah, so we're just smoothing it out. For that foot, and actually adding a little more orange just on this side here. So you can go back and touch up. Like that. Put that in there as well. Right, we're going to leave the lantern because I'm actually going to go in there and touch up with some white. Okay. So for the next part, I think I'm going to work on the cloak next. We're going to do that really dark green because that will help with filling out a big area for shadow. For that, I am going to go with pure yellow. So we'll go 2, 3 drops of pure yellow, and we're going for a very dark green. So we're going to go with 1 pure black, because black and yellow makes green. If you've ever tried painting yellow over black primer, you'll know what that means. You'll know that it makes green. There we go. We've got a nice dark green. and we'll use that for the cloak. So we're just going to layer that on. So where it meets the light, I'm just going to pull away from the light so you get a rough edge. Like that. But it helps emphasize that the cloak is not perfectly smooth and flat. Right, we'll have to go a little bit darker on this green as well. Bring that around. So again, here, where it meets, pulling away from the light, from the transition of colour. So you get this uneven line. It's almost like a jagged line, which creates a more natural shadow. You know if you've placed your highlights well, because you get just a hint of the shadow when you look at it from wherever your light source is, your light source direction, so like this. You can just see it. It takes practice, but you can go back and adjust. One of the easiest things, sort of, I suppose you could say, cheats that I used to do while I was learning how to do OSL and where to place that level of highlighting and lighting, was to take a photograph of my miniature from that angle and have that sat next to me, so I can always see which areas I can see, and it's always consistent until you get used to moving it around and managing to move it back to the same area and being able to read the mini a bit better. Now I'm just going to drop down to a size 30 so that I can get in under here. So that still wants to be green. A little there as well. There we go. We're starting to get a very high contrast. You can see that he's very much, the light's coming from the lantern. Just going to carefully get in there again, trying to pull away from the light. Like that. So instead of making the green darker, I think what I'm going to do is we're going to make a glaze out of the pure black, and we're going to glaze into the recesses. It should keep it quite smooth, but it should help add some depth on this side. So we're going to do 1 drop of pure black and 2 drops of Water Plus to make a glaze. Just give that a quick mix. Okay, so kind of like with painting the light, when you paint shadows, the aim is to paint into the shadow. So I'm just going to push this in. Kind of want to go up, but we also want to go into the recesses. If you struggle to paint into the recesses, you can just paint up. Your shadows will be quite straight, but that doesn't matter too much. On something this sort of scale, you can't tell that well. But we're just dropping that in. You can already see that it's making quite a difference. So this one in particular, I'm just going to paint that straight up underneath the shoulder covers. I don't know what that section's called. I'm pretty much just going to paint that in there. There we go. Push it up into the shadows. So this bit will cast a shadow over the rest of the cloak, which is why I'm painting here. You can glaze in there. Push that into the recess there. So I'm going to do the same on this side here. So there is actually a slight band in here that is a little more raised than the rest of it, but it's still more shadowed than this section here. So that hasn't got a second round of shading. Just get that bit there. There we go. So far we've got the front really bright, we've got the back quite dark. We're going to add a little more shading on the back. So the main thing with OSL is contrast. You want a big value difference between your light and the rest of the model, depending, I mean it does depend on what kind of OSL you want. You can go with more soft OSL. This guy's got a lantern, he's probably walking around in almost total darkness. So the back of him is going to be very shaded. Just get that in there. So that's what we're going for here. The bigger the contrast, the brighter your light will look. You can't have light without the shadows. You need the shadows to make it work. so. Alright, and one of the last things I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yellow glaze that I made, and I'm just going to glaze it over that green, just there. So that will blend my OSL into my shadow. It carries it through. You can do a couple of rounds. It might take it with the darker colours. You can also wet blend it. You can do, take the green, just layer the green in, take the orange, just gently bring it down, and it blends it in, so you get a smoother transition. It's up to you what you prefer. Both techniques work really well and get nice effects. The wet blending is a little smoother, but it can be a little bit trickier with such contrasting colours. But I'd say it's a personal preference thing. Whatever you're comfortable with. It doesn't matter which way around you go either. You could put the orange in and then blend the green in. Excellent. Okay. So in order for this to start working really effectively, there's a couple of areas in here that I need to paint green. So I want to push the green into the recess here. This doesn't have to be perfect. There we go. So the sword hilt is actually covering this little section just in there. So we can paint that green. There's a bit in there as well. I'm also going to gently, sort of almost glaze it down into the recesses inside that section of the robe there. Like that. But it puts some depth in there, brightens our light a little more as well. We're almost framing it. So we'll get under this collar here. Like so. Just in there. So I'm actually going to fill that with green, almost like green shadow. There we go. I hope you can see now that it's starting to get brighter. As we've added in some shadow. So if I just take that away. Now the nice thing about INSTAR paints, because they're already so thin, you can actually thin them out more by just sort of stretching them. They actually hold together. So I can do that, and then I can put in some shadow here. Now it might not look like I'm doing much, but if I just gently apply it, do a few strokes, and you can see it is dropping that shadow in there. But it's not taking away my OSL. So I'm mostly going to stick with this green actually, I think, around most of the model. because it's working, it's nice complementary to the yellow. To the yellow orange we've got going on. Right, the main exception is going to be the face. We're going to use some magenta to shade the face because it gives them some warmth and depth. Now we don't want the orange. But we can go magenta. With 2 drops of water plus to make it a glaze. We're kind of going to underpaint this in, so I'm going to take the magenta. I'm going to glaze this in, so around the back of his jaw. Around here, very gentle. So I'm going to increase the shadows on his face. We don't want him to be too cold looking. But the magenta, with it being nice and warm, will also help us to start finding some detail on his face without affecting his looks. I mean, technically magenta is a cold colour, so that's why it works well as a shadow, but it's the warmest of the cold colours, which is why it works really well for skin shadows. So this side of the nose in particular wants a little extra attention. So I've added some definition to his face by just adding in a little bit of magenta. I'm going to go in between his hair as well. So just in there. Like that. There's a little there as well. Okay, I'm going to take this really light yellow and I'm just going to add a tiny amount of magenta to it, like this, which gives me quite a light fleshy tone. So if you've already mixed it, you've already got it, and I'm going to start putting that in on his face as well. Still want him to look like he's got skin. But this creates a really nice peachy colour. You can almost sort of glaze in over the top of everything that's there, like so. His face is definitely a slightly different hue to the rest of him. You can do similar with the robes as well, so you can take a little of the green that we made, but you can add some pure white to it, thin it out, add some Water Plus. It's quite sage green, like a really light sage green now. So this is how you help distinguish your OSL sections. You can just lightly brush that in, just glaze it in over your OSL. So we're brightening and we're also defining. This is the green. Same colour, different value. Go a little bit bolder, I think, with that green. Like that, see? Don't be afraid to take it away a little as you work, but it really helps smooth it out as well. So we'll do the same on this side. Just bring that in there. There. Can also make sure we get it in under this section here. You can build up some layers. So you might want to do that particularly as you're getting sort of lower down or further back from the light source, where you'll get progressively more of the green being obvious. So here. So we're not quite covering that orange, it's still in there. We're making it more subtle. We're making it softer. Okay. So I think we'll go with sort of like classic grey armour plating. Like his leg armour. Then he looks like he's wearing a shirt and a waistcoat. So we'll go with some grey. We'll go with a metallic grey. So we've actually got some black glaze. I'm going to use this instead of putting a drop of black in. However, I am going to add in pure warm blue. So we'll grab this. So I'm going with a brush load of my black glaze. I'm going to mix that in. And you get kind of like a bluish grey. It's quite cold, but at the same time it's not flat, like just mixing black and white. And then we can start putting that in down here. So a little in there. Again, I'm trying to brush away from the light. It is a little tricky in these tight spaces. Over very small areas. It's not easy. Just in here as well. Make sure you get the shadows in under each plate. It'll really help emphasize that light and give shape to your miniature. So this leg has more shape. We've got in underneath, so if we get in under this one, we're going to take a little bit more of this green, just glaze in there. That's it, bring it down. Just putting a bit of shadow where it meets in there. That's it. I'm going to take the black glaze. Actually, we need to do a little more touch up there. I've just spotted an area that's not quite tidy. So I'm just going to tidy that up. And then I'm going to take the black glaze that I made and just push that right into the very recesses at the sides in particular, between the legs. We're sinking that. And down this side too. There we go. You can also very carefully put it in underneath each plate. So we're just building it up. Like that. So I'm going to glaze over with pure yellow. Just smooth out some of that. Like so. And then I'm going to thin this down, spread it out. I'm going to add some white. There we go. And then smooth along the edge. Of that colour transition. You can pretty much just brush down on the plates. There we go. So we're getting much more shape to him now. Okay, I think we'll go with some magenta. I think we'll go with magenta and pure warm blue to make a nice purple for his waistcoat. So we'll go one drop of magenta, one pure warm blue. So this will make the colour, and then we might have to change the value using black or white. Okay, so that's a really dark purple. That's really nice. I like mixing warm blue and magenta because it makes a really rich purple. I just spread that out there. Look at that. Looks great. It's a really nice purple. So I'm going to use that on the around the waistcoat. So we want to do just underneath there. Get in between, so where the waistcoat fronts over. There we go. Go with some shape on there. Make sure we get all the way into that corner as well. got a shadow in there. So we can push that into the recess there. Get in there as well. That's it. Then a little touch under there, like so. I'm also going to add a tiny amount underneath each button. So he's got 3 buttons on his waistcoat. So that defines his buttons. Okay, we'll make a glaze out of this. Now, I'm probably not going to desaturate this one too much. So I'll just do 1 drop of pure white, Water Plus, and then I'll mix in a brush load of that. We'll desaturate it a little, so I'll take a bit of white, desaturate it, make it lighter. We're going to change the value, not desaturate. I mean, it sort of is. Okay, and then I'm going to just glaze that in over most of his waistcoat. Again, we're changing the sort of the tone of it without impacting the value too much or the effect of the yellows. We still want to give it that strong impression that there's a yellow light there. Like that. But he's definitely wearing a waistcoat, a purple waistcoat. So we'll particularly focus on the areas underneath the buttons. I might even go back in, so we'll go back in with this one. Just bring it up there. So getting great contrast here. I'm going to start by, I'm actually going to go green on the back of his feet. You call me mad if you like, but like this. It's actually a good undertone for skin. Skin has lots of different, pretty much every colour in it. And then we're going to glaze over magenta. To differentiate it from the coat. We pretty much want his, the back of him lost in darkness. Okay, I'll do his hilt in this colour as well. Paint the back of this in the same. We'll actually go over this in with a black glaze, for the back in particular. Really darken it down. so. We'll get under there as well. So there's a slight raise on the pommel. Get on the guard, just there, pushing it into the handle. We want some flesh tone down here. Now I'm going straight in with the light flesh tone I made. Although that area is quite shadowed, so I'm going to take my magenta again and push that into the recesses there. But that gets his feet painted. Okay. We'll do the lantern in the same, so we'll stick to the same colours throughout. It's nice to have some consistency. So paint on the side. Right. And then I'm going to thin this out and make a glaze out of the greyish blue that I've made. Now that I'm making the glaze actually for the lantern mostly. Because the light sort of bounces around, so actually the framework will still be very bright. We want that yellow pretty much around the whole framework here. And there as well. Like so. Right, and we can use this to layer in. So I'm just glazing in this sort of greyish tone, providing a hint that it's metallic. Like so. So a bit of pure white. I'm actually just going to spot that into the middle of each of these panels. To really make the lantern bright. That's pretty much the lantern painted. I'm going to glaze the hair in black. Keep the hair simple. If you've done a zenithal prime, it works really well. Otherwise, I would recommend doing several rounds. You can just sort of dry brush first. Let that bleed into there. You could also paint it, just flat out paint it black. I'm just using this because it's here. So we can do that. And then along the hairline where it meets the light, I'm actually going to use this. So this will blend it. There we go. And I'm going to do his glove in, so I'm going to use pure magenta and pure black. I'll pop it here. Pure black. And I'm going to do his glove in this. You might be like, oh, but it just looks black. It's not actually quite black. It's not quite black. Keep it thin. Don't over apply. Also make sure you keep your shadows dark. I'm quite pleased with how it's coming out. The main thing with OSL is remembering that you need as much shadow as you have light to make it really work. The darker your shadows, the brighter your OSL is going to be. The colour of your OSL is whatever your mid-tone is, so I've used orange and white, but most of it's yellow. That's my mid-tone. Okay, so my black, I'm actually just going to bring that in around the top here, because this needs to be darker, and underneath. I'm just going to do that one here. Push it into the recess on this section. Alright, the final section to do is the shirt area. Now, he's likely to have something like a white shirt, which can be really tricky to paint for doing deep shadows. I think the best way of doing that is taking this grey and we're going to add some more black to it. So I'm going to go for a really dark bluish grey. So we can take that like so. Just mix it in along the edge until you're pretty happy with it. It wants to be dark, but it doesn't want to look black. It still wants to look grey. So we've got a nice dark grey. So just blend that in there. I'm going to use white to blend it out. There we go. So where the light's meeting, I need a bit more white out. I'm going to use white to blend it because we're going for a white shirt, so not that you'd be able to tell with the light a lot of the time. But you can give hints by using some of what you want. Smooth that down like so. And so then along areas like here. Now whites tend to be very, very bright and reflective, so we can add in a touch of white down here, blend it down, and it helps make his shirt look actually white. We'll take some of this and push that into the shadows under there. So that keeps it consistent. Now we've gone for a metallic-y effect down here, so I'm going to just gently edge that with some white. Keep it really soft. In there with that. Almost the same around here, around the top of the lantern, catching the underside because that's where the light is, and then around this bit here. So between each bar, just catching it with the white. This is just giving a bit more shape to the lantern. Like so. I think I'm also going to take, just move that off there, just going to gently sort of stipple in some highlight across the brow, nose and the cheek, on his face. His face is looking a little dark, so we're going to make it a bit brighter. And then you can also just gently sort of stipple in elsewhere some little patches of white. You'll always get areas that are disproportionately bright. You can do similar on the pommel. Add some white in there. I'm going to do it along the tops of the buttons. Like so. That pretty much covers the OSL. I could take a little bit of yellow, smooth out this sleeve a little more. I can do a bit of bouncing light as well and put some yellow in under here. It wants to be really subtle. But light does bounce around a little bit, so you get some illumination. It's where you get perfect silhouette. Soften up that white there a little bit more, like so. I'm going to add, just bring that out a bit more. So kind of going with a leathery look on this glove. So I'm going to add in a little more light where it's kind of bounced around. Leather is very reflective when it's well maintained. Could do similar on his hair as well. Brighten up that bit there. Just here. And that. I think that was my phone. Oops. So as the light's sort of bouncing around, you can grab different areas and just add a little extra. Keep it really gentle. You don't want it to overpower everything else. But it can help you to define different areas, give some bits more shape, a bit more texture. Keep it to the front though, bring it forward. So you're not going to get a lot of light bouncing around down here. This is way too far from the light source. His arm's in the way and stuff like that. But we can smooth out this bit. His gloves definitely open to it. Can probably get around there as well, like that. Maybe a little on this collar, just there, a little bit there. Just having really subtle highlights. And there we are. We have a nice yellow OSL. I bring him over here with a nice green, dark green back. So we have a very high amount of shadow and a very bright light. That pretty much sums up OSL. So some of the important things with the OSL is to frame areas of light with areas of deep shadow. So the underside of the cloak, the cape for example, the underside of each plate, his waistcoat, his shirt. We can go in, we can actually go in and do a little bit on this, this is like this belt buckle. We can add a bit in in there. Frame that. How much you frame is up to you, but the more you frame, the more shape and definition you'll get out of your model. Otherwise it could just get lost in the light. You still want to be able to see the detail. When it comes to doing the shadows, pick a dark colour and then go darker. I find that's often easier than going lighter, although you can go lighter if you really wanted. You could start with black and then highlight up to say green, like a dark green. There we go. So light colour choice, your mid-tone is your colour. Okay, what you have either side of it simply provides shadow and brighter light. The mid-tone denotes the colour, that's why it looks yellow. There's orange and white in there. The deeper so the greater the contrast, the brighter the light as well. So if I show it in grayscale, you can see the value difference. So he's very bright on the front. As I turn him round, it pretty much disappears into the darkness until I start bringing him round again. We start to see that light come back in. And it's really bright there on this side of him. So the light might not actually be brightest here, but this is where your focus is. And his face wouldn't catch quite so much light, but again, that's where your focus is. So it's also about creating the impression of OSL whilst also creating focus. So his face is the brightest point. And that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for everyone that joined me today. I will be back next month on the first Wednesday of the month. I don't know which mini I'm going to be painting next month, but I will definitely have a look, and I will post it up on Twitter and Instagram. So if you follow AgentMeeple, at AgentMeeple, pretty much everywhere, you'll see a notification about it. And I will catch you guys next time.